Hi, I'm Michael Marotta, and it's Easter Sunday here in the Capone Greenblatt House in Rockville, Maryland. Table is all set, as you can see. This year we're featuring some very simple, beautifully hand-decorated Easter eggs, and I've got them mounted in these vintage silver shot glasses. Look at these cute little arrangements. These flowers are from a wedding I was at last week, both the hydrangeas and the lilies. They didn't cost a penny, and the cherry blossoms are right from branches outside the house. Easter Sunday, perfect time for fruit pies. This year, we're featuring a new recipe. This is from the 4 and 20 Blackbird Pie Company. Come on into the kitchen, I'll tell you a little bit about it. This is the new hot spot for pies in New York, in Brooklyn. The 4 and 20 Blackbird Pie Company. They've got tons of gorgeous pies on the menu, but their most famous, and the one that intrigued me the most, was the strawberry balsamic pie. Come on in, let's get started on it. I'm just going to rinse and quarter about 2 pounds of these beautiful, fresh, bright red strawberries. Obviously you want to cut off the stems and let them sit in about 1/4 cup of plain brown sugar and macerate in the fridge for a little bit. I made the dough yesterday, and what you want to do with the dough before you process it, you see all these tiny little pebbles in there. That's butter. You really want to see that butter inside of your dough. It really makes for a nice, fluffy, flaky crust. So, and again, you don't want to over-knead the dough because then it gets tough. A little bit of flour goes a long way. Flip that over. Do the same thing on the other side. And then we're just going to simply roll out the crust, just like you've seen 1,000 people do it before, and fit it about 2.5 inches to 3 inches over the size of the pie plate that you're going to put it in. This is a lovely fresh dough, so it tends to be a little bit sticky. All that lovely butter in it. You can still see it if you're up close and personal with it. That's going to really make it delicious. Flip that over one more time. What you want to do is take your dough, roll it right onto your pan, and then what we'll do is lay that pan right over the pie dish. Get it on there nice and clean. Flip it in. Don't pack it down too far, just so that you fill your pan. And naturally, so that the steam can escape, you want to take a fork and just prick the bottom of it a little bit like that. Done. And trim off all the excess. You can reserve this for another use, but really you just want about a little skirt around the edge of the pie. Done. In a covered pie, I am going to do a latticed top pie today. The best way to cut your lattice is with a pizza pie cutter. Gives you a nice straight line, nice clean finish. And since I'm going to do a lattice, I'll probably do about 4 strips in each direction. So I started cutting right down the middle so I can cut my pie in half. And then I'll know how many pieces I'll need. There we go. Then what I'm going to do is pull up these lattice pieces. I'm going to put them on a pre-floured piece of wax paper would be ideal. I don't happen to have that with me in this current house, so I'm going to use saran instead. put them on there, and then I'm going to pop them in the fridge so that they just get chilled enough to work with. This recipe calls for 1 apple to be cooked in with the strawberries. So what we'll do is peel the apple, and then I'm going to shred it on the biggest holes of a box cutter. And it'll just give the texture of the fruit pie a little more crunch. It's going to be really good. If you have a box grater, that's the best way to do this because it's fast and efficient. As you can see, I have a single straight edge here. Best to peel and core your apple, get rid of all your seeds, and you just need a nice, coarse chop. Done. Strawberries have been sitting in the fridge for about 20 minutes with the sugar, and they create a really lovely syrup. Now what I'm going to do, because you don't want it to be a wet pie, is I'm going to drain the that excess liquid. That's basically the strawberry water with sugar, and I'm going to use it later on. If you boil it down on the stove and reduce it, it makes a really delicious syrup that you can pour over the pie if you like, or frozen yogurt or ice cream. It's really yummy. While that's happening, in order to give this a little extra crunch, I'm going to take this grated apple that will give us a little more crunch to the internal part of the fruit pie as well. So I'm just going to mix these together and let them all culminate, blend, and mix. And then I'll be ready to mix it with the rest of the filling for the pie. There you go. Now that the strawberries and the apple are tossed, we're going to do 2 shakes of bitters. That means 3 in my book. And this recipe, which I'm really excited about, calls for balsamic vinegar. This vinegar is infused with a little bit of chocolate. This is not in the recipe, it's just what I've got and what I'm choosing to use. So I'm putting 2 tablespoons of a chocolate-infused balsamic vinegar into my mix. That's going to give it a nice chocolate and strawberry is a great combination. We'll toss that about. Then I'm going to mix into this the combination of the remainder of the sugar. We've got about a quarter of a cup of sugar with 3 tablespoons of arrowroot and about 2 grinds of fresh black pepper and about a quarter of a teaspoon of kosher salt. Toss that all together. Okay, final ingredient in our pie is about 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar. Just toss that right on top. And we're going to stir all that up. I am so excited about this pie. I mean, I've not made it before. So this is our maiden voyage, but I understand at the 4 and 20 Blackberry Pie Company, it is the most popular pie on the menu. So now we're going to toss this into our pie filling. You saw me roll this out. You saw me prick holes in the bottom to release any steam that might come up. And we're going to fill it with our mixture of strawberry, apple, and brown sugar mixture that's in there. Fill it up like that. There we go. Now, to make our lattice top, there's a variety of ways you can do it. I have decided to do a very sort of rough-hewn wide strip. In order to do it, we'll start right at the center, like so. And then we will do 1 over cross. Right about, let's say, there. Now to get a perfect lattice, what you want to do is flip 1 back so that it goes under, comme ça. And then you do the same thing over here. You flip 1 back and put this on. You get the idea? So now we're just going to alternate left and right until we have basket weaved our entire top of the pie. There we go. Beautiful lattice top complete. Now, as far as crimping goes, crimping to me is your own personal style on a pie. There are so many ways to do it. I like to fold this up around, comme ça. This will seal in all of the edges of the bottom crust and the lattice that I've just added to the top. And you can do it pretty rough. Oh, I preheat my oven and that beeping is just telling me that it's ready to go in. So good timing. If I pull all of this around and pop it up like this, I'm going to use a thumb and index finger technique. What I like to do is just go here, here, here. And you continue this all the way around the pie until you've got a nice, even crimp and a good old-fashioned technique. You can see this doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of old-fashioned-y, well, imperfect, and I think that's a good way to do. To make our egg wash on top, we're going to do 1 egg, a teaspoon of water, and a pinch of kosher salt. And all we're going to do is mix this up with a fork and use an good old-fashioned pastry brush to give us a nice sheen on the top of the pie. This will give the pie a nice brown touch. I'm going to pop that off because it's broken. And it'll make it nice and brown and nice and crispy as well. And it's a good idea to try to avoid the fruit if you can. Really just want to get a nice coating on all of your crust, as you can see. Again, you don't have to be too delicate in this. Just rub it on. Make sure you cover all your surfaces. And then the final touch, which is going to really make this stand out, is Demerara sugar. As you can see, I have all of my ingredients pre-cooked, pre-measured. This will give it a nice little crispy top. This is basically a raw sugar that has been scrubbed and washed, so it's not purified in cane. It's a brown sugar, and it, again, gives it a nice old-fashioned, just a little sprinkle right on top of the egg wash. The oven is preheated to 425 degrees. I put the rack right in the middle of the oven so that you can get a nice even distribution. Depending on people's ovens, sometimes it's better to cook the pie right at the bottom of the oven so that you get the bottom of your crust going. I'm going to pop this in. Oh, you know what I like to do is I always like to use a cookie sheet, because when a pie is really perfect, it's bubbling over, and you don't want that to bubble over into your oven. So it's always a good idea to put it on a cookie sheet first. Slip it into that middle rack, and we'll be back in a little bit. So the pie's been in the oven for about 45 minutes, 20 minutes at the high heat. I put it in at 425, then I lowered it to 375 for another 20 minutes. And I wish you could smell the kitchen right now. This, is perfect. It's steaming, it smells like, Grandma made it. Look at that delicious pie. When it starts to bubble like that, you know it's ready. That is going to be sensational with some vanilla bean gelato on it in about, 2 or 3 hours. Time to roast the lamb. Happy Easter!